from MLU headquarters in Philadelphia, this is Cleats and Cufflinks.
Hello and welcome back to Cleats and Cufflinks. Yet another episode. I think we're at episode 24. And I'm joined today by Luke Ryan in our ongoing series of random MLU employees on Cleats and Cufflinks. Luke, how are you today?
I'm good. It's nice to finally be on the show. I was going to be on, I think, last year. Kind of got pushed back.
You
really
got
looking forward to it. I got bumped. I don't know what for, but I know I got bumped.
Oh man, I want to know who you got bumped by.
Well,
if it was our exciting discussion about Ultimate in schools, that was a big one. Maybe you got bumped.
I think that might have been it. I was okay with it because I wasn't going to be talking about stats. It was more me playing Ultimate at St. Joe's. We were going to be having a college Ultimate discussion.
Not
so much.
Well, we maybe should do that again sometime. Yeah. We'll go back
I'm
to
the
that.
wrong
We're not
person
gonna...
to do that with.
Get
Billy on the show.
We'll get Billy or somebody else, somebody who knows more about it. So Luke is our head of all of our stats. Pretty much anything that has to do with numbers or how they're applied or interpreted. Would you say that's accurate?
That is very accurate. I just make sure that all of the numbers live somewhere. We can manipulate it however we want. Yeah.
Excellent. So anyway, let's before we get into all of the very exciting things we're going to talk about today, because we have many and varied. We had an Ulti-World article come out just this week, and I was reading through it. And the one thing is I'm clearly not very good at is Reddit and the whole discussion over there. But one thing that came up there was people were noting that we felt a need to come out and tell people like we were okay.
Yeah, that was the one thing that struck me, and I was reading it, and they were saying, why do they constantly feel the need to come out and say we're going to be here for another year? And it's because of you, Reddit commenter, because you are the ones that are saying they're not going to be here next year.
Yeah, which is fine. But I think that this is not abnormal. I mean, normally when a company brings a new investment, they tend to announce it. That's a typical thing that one does. But I think the interesting thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it always feels like people's understanding of where we are is different from our own understanding of where we are, and that maybe on vehicles such as Cleats and Cufflinks, we could start to address some of that. How, from your perspective, you're obviously a year or two younger than me, at most, something like that.
I think 3.
3 years, yeah, 3 years younger than me. You're a bit younger than me, a little more tied into some of the particularly Reddit, because Reddit is, while I've been on it and while I've been involved, back when I was first discussing Ultimate Online, it was Rexport Disc.
Yes.
The old listserv thing.
You have
no idea what that is. That dates me.
Yeah.
So Reddit, while I'm in there and I look at it and I keep an eye on it, I don't understand it as much. So we're talking about doing an AMA very soon. Is this how valuable do you think those are from your perspective?
Ever since I started playing Ultimate and I became a part of the community, so to speak, Reddit has probably been the best place for news. If I want to go somewhere, whether somebody posts about a tweet, an article, something cool that may relate to Ultimate, it's always been at the r-Ultimate Reddit feed. Ultiworld has done a good job, but also if Ultiworld is posting an article, it makes its way onto Reddit. So most of the people who are involved in the online community and are ready to openly discuss any topics are normally heading over to r-Ultimate. So it's the best place, at least right now, in my opinion, that discussion can be had. Although Reddit is known as a very negative place for most things. No likes and dislikes. The fact that you're able to downvote something.
It's just
it's just the fact that it's there. You want to click it.
Yeah, I remember we did that AMA about a year ago, I guess, and it actually was great. I mean, I felt like I'd heard, and on my little bit of involvement in Reddit online, I'd heard that it tended to be kind of a negative space, but I found it was actually pretty decent. There was definitely some downvoting of some comments, and sometimes I felt unfairly, and a little bit of trolling here and there.
Well,
but on the whole, not bad.
Reddit does have its fair share of trolls, but I really enjoyed your AMA that you did with Jeff, and the fact that you were able to sit down and say, we're here answering questions. A lot of the negativity was pushed aside, if not for 6 hours, that you were answering questions with positive feedback and wanting to know what was going on within the organization.
Yeah, I think the openness gets rewarded, right? Reddit, from what I've seen and experienced in it, and again, not as avid a user as a lot of other people in the office are, but from what I've seen, tends to reward openness. So we're going to plan on doing that. It may actually happen before this show airs. If it does, I want to just thank everybody who joined us for the AMA.
How did they do?
It was fantastic. Yeah. It was really good. Everybody
reached a lot of people.
They asked great questions, and we provided fantastic and perfect answers at every occasion. So
as
good.
Always,
that went well. That went well. I'm glad we did that. So moving on, let's get into a little more about what you do, and let's talk about statistics a little bit, because I think that in terms of developing a statistics platform for Ultimate, you and the people that have worked with you on this have really paved some new ground, in my opinion. And I'm wondering, if you can give people a little bit of a look into how that works, both on the capture side, but first I think on the kind of back end side, like what did we have to do to get to where we are today?
Well, I remember first day I came in on the job, a wide-eyed senior in college.
I might add, you came in not under the guise of statistics in any way. Right?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, you came in and we immediately titled you Special Projects. I believe one of your first assignments was building a T-shirt gun from supplies at Home Depot.
Exactly. I forget whoever idea it was. They looked up and said, "We need a T-shirt cannon. Who wants to do it?" And I think I had only been here for a week, and I shot up. I was like, "Whatever you need, I have it." But once we got into the flow of things in the season, I said, "This is my background that I went to school for." I majored in business intelligence at St. Joseph's, and that's just a fancy term for statistical analytics and database management and design. It's like, this is my skill set. This is what I think I can bring. We don't have this data anywhere. While UltiApps did an amazing job with us with capturing our statistics and holding it, we really didn't have that back end just large amount of numbers, like the zeros and ones, because as of right now, while going back through time and doing all the data capture, there's around, I want to say, almost 500,000 blocks of data that we house in our own database. And that was just we weren't able to access that through the resources we were using before. So it really just started with setting up our relational database, what is the top tier as it works down. I won't get into any technical jargon at all, but it's just what needs to be captured on a possession by possession, throw by throw, point by point, then game by game basis.
So on a high level, just to clarify that, when we work through a game, what is the most basic statistical level?
The most basic on a game is an action, is what we have dubbed it. And an action can be anything from a throw, a block, an assist, an infraction, a stoppage of play as a weather delay, a timeout, and then from there it'll work its way up to actions are housed in points, and then points are housed in games. Of course, through in that point there are possessions and just blah blah. It's essentially I wanted to do it so that we would be able to drill down to know exactly what happened on the X amount of throw in a game. We want to know as of right now, we'd be able to say what happened on the 10th throw of the 4th point of the second game of the season.
So I could tell, if you were sitting at your computer, I could say, can you tell me who completed the third pass of the Portland versus Seattle game on this date, and what were the weather conditions at the time?
Exactly. That's exactly what we're able to do, and I'd be able to tell you how many times that occurred throughout the first 3 years. It's just all at our fingertips, and it's been really exciting for us since the past year and a half has just been straight data collection. And now that we have it, we're able to manipulate it how we want. We're writing code for all of the back end for our websites and our player pages, our schedule pages, box scores. And while I'll take the time to say it, our listeners right now, what would you like to see in these box scores, since we're creating them right now? And what do you want? Do you want quarter breakdowns by players? But always open to feedback and give you the best possible product that we can.
Yeah, because basically we've collected now 3 years worth of data, and it's pretty dense. Is it everything we ever want yet? No, probably not.
Oh, no, but that's the beauty of the setup that we have now is if we want a new stat, we can just add on to the line.
So we can layer it
Yeah.
as we go. That's good. And then, so we have all that. Now it's really just a matter of interpretation and output right now until we get back into, of course, the bigger challenge, which I want to ask you about too. So before we get there, in order to accomplish this, what did we have to make on our side? We had to build a database, obviously. What about the input side of it? Collection of this stuff. How does that work for us? What do we have to make to allow people to do it, and how do people do it?
We had an amazing web developer. Her name is Amanda Kalk, who came on and
she's great.
Created the input interface that we had during last offseason, considering that we didn't really have a way of getting it into the database because, as you know, it's ones and zeros, just ones and zeros. But what do those ones mean? How does it relate to one another? She pretty much created a interface that people could click and drag and add in throws from player to player in a simple way that gets inputted, because we don't see the database at all. No one will ever see the numbers in there. It's all the output.
Right.
Yeah. So we had on the ground at least 3 stat keepers in each market who were on the ground level taking throw by throw, line by line, time measurements, the 14 people who are on, the blocks, the assists, the drops, all the different kinds of turnovers. And then from there, we were able to transfer it from their Google Doc that they presented us into our own system.
So, yeah, that's a good question then. So the process of this is that you have 3 statisticians at the game. How do they work together? They're entering the data into a Google document.
Mm-hmm.
Does this produce live statistics? Is it ingested from there? Or is it you get them and record them afterward? Or
the way the system is worked out now with a live Google app interface will come straight to us, and then we can put it in with live stats. We had the pleasure of having 3 stat teams that were able to work with the actual interface that was still in a beta mode. So there were a lot of bugs. So it's been worked out now that today during this season, all 8 teams should be able to input for the live stats. But they were able to input them. The Google Docs are probably going to be on their way out, and it'll be straight through our interface.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And so here's a question, because I know this is something that always concerns you because I hear you whine about it a lot. Yeah. At this point, 3 years of MLU statistics, what degree of accuracy do you think we have, and what would you credit that to, or blame it on if it's a bad number?
There is a 99.9% of every throw that has happened, and we, I think, have missed out on only 1 point. It was because there were no stat keepers available at the game, and the video is unavailable to us.
Oh.
So there's just 1 point in all 576 points in MLU play. So when you see stats on our website, they are 100% accurate.
And these are these confirmed? Do you guys back these up and confirm them as they come in?
We have our live stat keepers that give us the base stats, and then every Monday we go over the game film and confirm, as you will say, the correct stats. If there's any changes that need to be made, then they are made. They rarely need to because our stat keepers do such a great job.
Shout out to the stat keepers. I like that. Of course, in that area, stat keepers. Is this something that you guys still look for? Are you looking to add to your team this year?
Yes, we are. Also, again, if anyone is in the area in our 8 markets and would like to help out, you can shoot me an email. Do I give my email?
You can
I'm
give your
just
email.
Luke at ML Ultimate. I don't know. It's just like talking to strangers, giving them my...
Yeah, tell all of the strangers your email.
So you can shoot me an email, Luke at ML Ultimate, if you're interested in helping out. I'd love to hear from you if you have any input on what you need or what I would need from you. We could probably work something out.
Also available on Twitter. MLU
Luke R, because MLU Luke was taken.
So that's Luke with an R at the end. We don't have another Luke in the MLU, so I'm not sure who took that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we should probably go find them, I guess. All right, so we get all these statistics together. They're obviously serving a pretty strong purpose in helping us develop content. We do analysis. Nick Greenwood just worked with you to make a really cool infographic on all of the goals scoring over the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. We also, out of this, of course, put together Fantasy Ultimate. So we built a fantasy ultimate platform last year. From your perspective, how do you feel like that ran? What pieces were kind of missing? What did well? What didn't? How did you see the whole thing with fantasy go?
Well, the fantasy, I thought it ran perfectly for what we wanted out of it, and especially the time frame that we had before the season began. Amanda Koch again really helped us out. Phenomenal. I can't shower enough
I'm gonna
praise.
I'm gonna shout her out in the nickname level. I don't usually do the nicknames, but Oki. Here's to Oki.
There we go, Oki.
Yeah.
Came together with a project saying we needed fantasy. Let's get it done. A lot of bugs. We got a lot more users than we anticipated, which for some of the but it handled it perfectly. Any bugs that we encountered, although it wasn't a beta, Oki and myself were able to work through and just fix things as they came along. The community was very supportive, instead of saying, hey, look, your application is broken, this is what I can do, they came to us and said, hey, this is broken. Like,
right.
What, can you fix it for us? Yeah, obviously we can, and that's what a beta is for. I thought it ran perfectly. If I could add maybe one thing that we kind of missed out on was trades and an open banter and I guess we could call it a heckling corner.
You want more of a heckling element and a trade element.
Yeah.
Now, which of those is more important, heckling?
I
or
would
trading?
say heckling personally.
Heckling more important
because you could do the backwater trades with fantasy, dropping somebody,
drop ad agreements.
Ad,
Yeah. So you can get around that, but heckling, you don't want to have to resort to some other platform.
Calling, you don't want Twitter, you don't want Facebook,
no,
text messaging.
You want to heckle
there.
very directly,
right there,
right in the application. I can see what you mean by that. We've talked a little bit, and I think something I'm curious about, I'm curious what you think about it, I'm curious what our audience thinks about it, is we've talked a little bit about introducing potentially not daily fantasy, but kind of weekend-long fantasy. So you could pick a team for the weekend and compete against your friends and other people online.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a week-by-week, weekly matchup a la fantasy football, but we ran into the issue this year of having double headers, too many bye weeks. If you were in a 10-team league, you were really scratching to even field a starting 7.
Yep.
It happened in the playoffs. Those who were in the know, and I gave plenty of shout-outs.
Yeah, if you're playing fantasy this year, you really need to follow. There was a fantasy Twitter account as well, right?
Yes, at MLU Fantasy.
At MLU Fantasy. So if you follow that, you can kind of keep up with what's going on.
Gave plenty of shout-outs letting people know that in the playoffs, the Nighthawks would be playing a doubleheader. So if you want to win your league, pick up all the Nighthawks you can.
Take all of the Nighthawks that are available.
But if we were to transition into more of a weekly sort of free play with anyone who logs in, not having 10 friends in. If you want to just come in and play in a league, you'd be able to, and there was no commitment. You play just for the weekend. It wouldn't matter if there's a doubleheader because the next weekend there would be buys, and you fill out your roster as need be.
So you could actually say if a player had a doubleheader, they would cost you twice as much to pick up
that
in
player.
your draft. Yeah, that makes sense. And so everybody knows, like, this is purely exploratory right now, but we're very interested in hearing feedback. I want to know, like, is this something people would want to do? And if so, to what level could we take it? Because I think it would be a lot of fun. I admittedly played fantasy this year. I did not do well. I have perhaps, as my teachers used to call it, an attention span problem, where, really week to week making sure I picked up the right players at the right times when the draft came. I mean, when the rosters opened up, and you were sitting right next to. I should know when it happened. You yelled it when you were turning them back on.
It's going up.
It's going up, and I failed pretty miserably at that. But
I won the league. Yeah. I just want everybody to know that I did in fact win the office league.
Yeah, you also were able to get into the back end and assign yourself players as needed. I'm not saying you did, but I'm saying
ethical
you
line that I would not
did.
cross.
Yeah, there's an ethical line there somewhere. I'm not sure where you put it, but but I think in the weekly thing, I'm interested in that. I think it would be really fun to compete with different people. Like, you'd be able to go and join up with like 10 people you don't know, compete against them for that weekly.
It was some of the main feedback that we got was saying, I just want to join a public league.
Yeah.
Coming in. I don't want to waste my time finding multiple people, because in some cases people don't have 10 friends that they can play with. That
was sad.
They didn't.
Really sad.
I can barely find 10 people to play a fantasy football league with me, let alone if they want to come play Ultimate Frisbee fantasy.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
Your cat's just drafting by hitting its paws on the keys. Good job, Mr. Bigglesworth.
You still lose somehow.
Yeah. I would. It's ridiculous. Yeah. All right, so getting fantasy back off the ground, we're going to have something available for people, kind of around the time that rosters can announce, early spring. Mm-hmm. Is that what we're anticipating?
Yeah, we would love some feedback if we want to have any sort of, if we want to have a deal, if we want to pursue this weekly fantasy league, or if we want to stay with the course that we are. Of course, the head-to-head league is already built, so it would just be an extension, another weekly, just another option of how to play fantasy. If people are interested in that, then of course we're going to put a lot of time and resources into creating it.
Yeah, to sort of add that on, but we're gonna have both at best, but at least we'll have the fantasy as people expect it.
Exactly.
At a minimum. That's awesome. Okay. And this would really be a better conversation for Dusty Rhodes if he were sitting here and you to have him. Maybe we'll make that happen at some point, and I can stand on the other side of the cameras like Dave is right now.
And we would just go on for 5 hours.
He would just continue, and we would record it for the full 5 hours. We'd switch batteries. It would be a very complicated procedure. We had this discussion before, and I'm interested if you can maybe draw the problem out for people. The question you've asked me numerous times, and you've only asked me because you got tired of asking yourself, is fantasy a per game sport? Is it a per game statistical sport? Is that am I phrasing that right?
Yes. It was posed to me by, I think Tim was the first one who brought it up.
Yeah, let's give some credit to Tim, by the way. We haven't talked about Tim at all.
Tim is my right-hand man.
Yeah, Tim Brubaker.
Tim Brubaker. Also, I can't say enough about him. Everything that we've done has been with him as well. So just another shout-out for Tim and Amanda Koch-Oki, pretty much the main team here.
Tim has a vast knowledge of Danish food.
Yes, he does.
A surprisingly deep.
What was the email even about?
It was about a huge change in Danish cuisine.
No, what?
Some beer pairings were brought up.
No, it was an email, I think, about the weekend plans of somebody going to Boston, and Tim responded with a 4-paragraph long
explanation
about Danish pastry,
just cuisine in general. I think, we were talking about where we were all going for the weekend, and he suggested,
but that's
perhaps
made sense. That's Tim.
That's Tim.
Yeah.
So that's a little insight into Tim. Yeah. We'll move on from that though. But anyway, getting back to this per game stat idea.
Ultimate, is it really a sport that you just have a base cumulative number, like your sum of goals and assists, like there is in football and soccer? They're based off of how many goals you have at the end of the season. You win the Golden Boot. But is it more of a basketball? Will we play enough games? This player plays 10 games. They score 4 goals per game. Is it better to hear I score 4 goals a game, or they have 40 total goals? I myself am in the camp of now we need to get to possession based, but that's just taking it a little overboard. But
wait. Let me just rephrase what you just said. So things like soccer will look at stats in a more cumulative manner a lot of the time, right? Because it's so hard to score a goal. They'll say, this player averages 20 goals a season, or this season they've scored 13, 14 goals, right? And that's how they kind of judge how good a player is. Whereas basketball is more focused on points per game. LeBron James averages too many points per game.
Yeah. All of the assists,
all
the stats.
All of the stats per game. Too many of those, right? So you're asking first, before we get into how nerdy you are, you're asking first, is Ultimate a cumulative game? So Burton had how many goals last year? Do you remember?
53 total points, I believe. It was 34 goals. 30, yeah.
Or he averaged then 3.4
a game
goals a game, right? So
he actually missed a game.
So he averaged higher than that.
Yeah.
So which is more important is the question. And maybe that actually answers the question in some level. If you have 10 games and you're kind of assured of scoring each game, if you miss a game, should that count against you? And it does if you're doing cumulative, whereas it doesn't if you're doing it on a per game basis. But you're digging down even deeper, and you're saying that for a lot of our stats, there's a way to talk about it as a per possession thing.
Exactly.
So if Burton played, X number of points in that game, you could divide his number of goals by the number of, not even points, possessions.
Possessions that he has.
Possessions. We keep track of possessions?
We do keep track of possessions. Everything
I knew
is
that.
everything is drillable, which is the beauty of it, because we had the problem before we created this database of having blocks, assists, and goals, and just really points played and defensive points played. How important is a D-line player if he scores 10 goals, the same amount as an O-line player with 10 goals, but all 10 of those goals were breaks. They came for breaks. He may have only had half of the amount of offensive possessions, but in order to generate that turn, how can we really interpret that data? Is a D-line player more important than an O-line player because they have the same amount of goals? There really was no way before now, unless you were doing it on a possession basis, to really compare players. Because every O-line and D-line player will play offense and defense in a point, but sometimes they will not play them together.
So we got a little bit away from our thing, but you're saying that one of the key ways in which we're able to compare player A to player B is the fact that we can understand not only how many points they've played, but how many offensive possessions and how many defensive possessions that they've had, and their performance in each of those categories.
Exactly.
So we could actually judge an offensive player as a defensive player based solely on the number of possessions that they played on defense.
Exactly. It might say more about them turning the disc over and having to get it back.
It might say a little bit about that. Yeah, there's some intricacies in that. But that's very so by being able to dig down to the possession level, it provides us a way to do these efficiency ratings that you do, right? Is that correct?
We have the offensive and defensive efficiencies that we're working with, and I'm thinking up new things every day as it goes because there's nothing there. No one's talking or made any statistics like this before. But that's why probably my favorite stat right now is the T-pop, the touches per offensive possession.
You love
T-pop.
So
I love T-pop. So you have.
I love D-pop. Or no.
You just like saying it.
No. I like touches per defensive possession because that usually equals a block.
Oh yeah.
And as a former defensive player,
that's
my favorite.
Because we're not touching the disc. We're just making sure someone else doesn't touch it.
Yeah, that's the main goal. Yeah.
But the T-pop stat is a great example of breaking it down by possession instead of a point played because Alex Simmons was a leader in T-pop this year as a strictly D-line handler.
Really?
But it's just some way that you can break down how people are playing and how they're interacting on the field with other players. And it really stemmed into one of my main pieces that I'm going to be writing about probably within the next 2 weeks is going to come out of, is this a point-by-point game? Is it a game, a stats by game average game? When I started digging down deeper into that, the old adage is, offense wins games. O-lines always score. As long as they don't turn it over,
you win.
They win.
Yeah.
And as I was digging down deeper and deeper into this per possession basis, I'll have these numbers above, and I'll release them after this podcast. That it's not so much that the offense scores so much. If you break it down by possession by possession basis, the O-line is just as effective as a D-line playing offense. A slight variance of maybe only 3 or 4%. But I guess the only fact is that they get it right back. Less than 50% of the time an O-line scores on their possessions, whereas the D-line scores on around 46% of their offensive possessions.
But in a given point, what percentage of the time does an O-line score?
It goes out to around 73%. But that's just because nobody can play offense. That's the problem.
I like that. So 50% ratio per possession.
Yeah.
But almost 75% per point, or 70%.
Oh, I'm thinking about Boston now.
That's Boston. If we take Boston out, we're down to like 65%.
It's down to around 60%.
That's very cool.
Taking Boston out of the equation.
Well, I mean, we can't get too much into that now because it's very nerdy.
I can talk about this all day.
You can talk about it all day. The bigger point here is if you want to get some interesting stuff out of here, you want to get some interesting stuff out of statistics, reach out to Luke. He'd love to hear from you. MLU Luke R. On Twitter or at luke@mlultimate.com. That's all the time we have for today. We're getting out of here. But we'll have another Cleats and Cufflinks very soon. Thank you very much for for joining us, and thank you, Luke.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.